All right, yo, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Corey Parsons, Fantasy Executive here. Thank you very much for everybody that has subscribed. I need more people to subscribe. Obviously, relaunch this channel, you know what I'm saying? So, need your help. It's very simple. Hit that subscribe button. And I got a special treat for you today. Conversation I've been waiting to have. I remember saying to myself before the season start, I got to get some win total talk in with my guy, the mighty Thor from Betting Pros. So here he goes. He's here right now to join us. Thor, what's going on, my man?
How you doing? Long time no see, Corey.
No doubt, it's good to see you too. I got a couple of things. So I wore my South Carolina State hat. I had the Yankee hat on, right?
Yeah.
But I wore the State hat since we just left the Hall of Fame. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
The Hall of Fame U was represented, and they actually have a black college football wing right there now. As soon as you come in, and obviously the Bulldogs were represented there.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I went to the Clemson and the South Carolina Gamecocks wing. I didn't have to step through it very little steps. But I went to the South Carolina State wing. That was bigger. So,
no doubt about it. You know, let me tell you something. I had took a picture, right, of one in the Black College Hall of Fame area, right? I had took a photo of a group, like just randomly taking photos, right? And I want this. These are the names that were in the photo. When I looked at the photo afterwards, Willie Lanier, Deacon Jones, Walter Payton, and Jerry Rice. That might be three of the best football players ever.
Yeah.
That's crazy right there. So
yeah,
had a good time in there. You know what I mean? How did you enjoy the weekend in Canton at the Kings Classic?
It was sweet. Yeah, it was my first time down there, so I didn't know what to expect at all. But I would highly recommend it for anyone that's never gone. Like I said, I didn't know what to expect, but it blew me away. It was really fun meeting everyone, and then going to the Hall of Fame too. That was the thing that for me was going to be the highlight. And if anyone hasn't gone there, you have to go. It's for sure a bucket list thing. Like I just had chills walking through that thing. Like it's like the hype is real. It's super duper cool. Yeah,
no doubt. You know, it is like the first time I went, right? So they was doing the draft. They had a break in the draft. So during the break in the draft, I said, I'm gonna walk around and see the Hall of Fame. So I didn't like cut myself short. Like I walked around and saw the Hall of Fame. And at some point, somebody came on the loudspeaker and was like, will Corey Parsons report to the Gold Jacket room? So I was like, oh my God, I made it. My name has been announced in the Pro Football Hall of Fame loudspeaker. So start the football life right now.
That's incredible. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I was walking through the Hall of Fame, and then I went through one of the, it was my first time there, and I was just following around my colleague Derek Brown pretty much. We're going through doors. All of a sudden, we go through one door, and Corey's the MC of the Kings Classic draft. You know, like we walk through one door, and then my buddy Corey's just MCing the whole thing. I was like, Corey,
there you go. Yeah.
That was just super cool. Yeah.
Thanks. Nah, definitely got that auctioneer action in there. You know what I'm saying? And
you were killing it, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, it's something I like doing. So that Friday night when I first got there, I'm like, fuck, I got to find where Thor is at, right? So I seen Froton. I'm like, yo, where's Thor at? You know what I mean? And he's like, he's over here somewhere. But, you know, not necessarily like I'm the king of Canton, but every two steps I walk, I got somebody pulling on me and grabbing me. And then the sky opened up, you know what I'm saying? And then we ran to the back to the hotel, then some place, a dive bar called George's.
Yeah.
And then it was like the next day, you know what I'm saying? But then I tell you what, though, Thor, I think you tweeted about the Hall of Fame's mini helmet collection, right?
Yes.
And I was like, I got to go back to the Hall of Fame. You know what I'm saying? So I went and I picked up this bad boy right here. You know what I mean? The actual Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Oh, yes.
Now, I wasn't thinking
I love that.
about it. I should have grabbed the Cowboy one to get my man Des Bryant to sign it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Did you?
I should have done that too.
I know, right? Did you get a chance to get your photo and all of that with Des?
You know, I didn't. I probably should have, because I mean, he was so nice.
He was.
But like I seen so many people like he sort of got mobbed. But he was so accommodating and nice. Like it clearly didn't bother him at all.
It didn't, yeah.
Yeah, but you know, in general life, you know, you see so many of these folks and you're like, your natural inclinations, like, I don't want to bother them, especially and you know, Corey, like being in this line of work, like your natural default becomes like, I don't want to bug that person. And so like that was my thing with Dez. It's like I don't want to bug him, but like now I sort of wish I just got up to him because
Yeah.
it's like that was like
He
his
was
inclination was
accommodating,
yeah, he wanted to. Yeah. So,
and I agree with you. I'm kind of the same way too. Like you said, working in this business, working for Sirius XM and all of these places. Like, I've been in green rooms with some of the biggest celebrities, and for the most part, I keep my cool. You know what I'm saying? But it's easy for me to be starstruck. I think one time we was doing some reporting, and I went in the Yankee clubhouse, and I saw Mariano Rivera, and I was like, "Whoa, this is a big one right here." And then a couple years ago, Radio Row, when Super Bowl was in New York, I'm going down the stairs. I turn the corner and I run into Joe Montana, and that right there is like seeing a ghost.
Would have done it.
Yeah, that right there is like seeing a ghost. But let's get ready to hop in here and start talking about this upcoming season. Yep. And whenever people start talking about, I've been watching a lot of people talk about the season coming up this year, and the two teams that immediately come to people's mind are Penn State and Texas that they want us to talk about. Let's start with the Nittany Lions. Win total at look at it over here at 9.5. Yeah, 9.5. Juice to minus 150. They say it's James Franklin's best bunch, and they think that this is a team that maybe it opens up in the top 10. Maybe they can get a win in the regular season versus Ohio State or Michigan. How you feel about the Nittany Lions going into the year, and what you doing with that win total?
I have Penn State at 10.1 wins. My system does. I really like Penn State this year. So the hype around them, I would sort of tentatively agree with, both in terms of roster quality. On defense, Manny Diaz, the defensive coordinator there, did such a good job with them last year. I thought sort of tailoring what he already likes to do on defense, sort of send the pressure and stuff, just sort of schematically and stuff like that, what his druthers are, with what the talent on hand that Franklin already had, the edge defenders and the linebackers at the defensive ends that Franklin already has on hand. It's just such a good fit with what Diaz likes to do. You saw them jump up defensively last year. They have so many guys coming back. And then the secondary was very good. You can leave guys on island. Diaz could send the heat there. Porter leaves to the NFL this year, but Penn State still has one of the best secondaries in the entire nation, even with Porter being gone. And they have one of the best front sevens, but specifically pass rushes in the nation. Chop Robinson, and Chop Robinson ain't the only one, but he's one of the best. You look at the NFL draft rankings, he's one of the highest edge rushing prospects out there. You look at pressure rate, first 2 seconds after the snap, he was one of the top guys in the nation last year. And then, you talk about the last, his tenure there, James Franklin at Penn State. The running game hasn't always been there, whether it was the offensive line being poor. A couple of the years, the running back room just wasn't good. Some of the times it wasn't his fault. Remember, Journey Brown was a fabulous running back prospect. Unfortunately, he got injured. A couple of times it was James Franklin's fault. Some of the times it just like the recruiting just wasn't quite as good, but now he has 2 stud backs back there. Nicholas Singleton's one of the best in the nation. And then Allen's a stud too. It's just, he's going to got to be the 1B back. And then the entire time Franklin's been there, he's had like super steady veteran type guys, but they've been like noodle arm, physical limitation type guys. He finally has the NFL howitzer arm guy there in Drew Allar, who's going to start this year. Will Levis sort of was that guy. It's just that James Franklin never trusted him. Right. And so then he chased him off or whatever. I really, really like this team. And not only that, I do love Michigan. Michigan's actually my national title pick. So I'm not saying that I think Penn State's going to win this division, but I'm lower on Ohio State than others. Okay. You can't be high on, like sky high on both Ohio State and Michigan and then be like, oh, I'm also high on Penn State. I'm lower on Ohio State than others. So my hierarchy in that division is Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State. I think Penn State's going 10-2. So if I had to shade that one over or under at the 9.5, I am shading it over.
Yeah, that's a good call right there. The other team, I'm gonna get back to Ohio State in a second. The other team that they talk about when they immediately start talking college football this year, they bring up Texas and Longhorns. They feel like this is the year that they get back to national prominence. Quinn Ewers, Steve Sarkisian, that bunch out there. They gave Alabama a run for their money last year. This year they go to Tuscaloosa, But outside of that, they should have a pretty solid run in the Big 12. 9.5 is the total. What do you think about the Longhorns going on to this year? Do they get back to the top of the heap?
I think they're going to the playoff, yeah. And I also think,
okay.
Yeah, I think Texas is going to upset Alabama. So yeah, I'm on the over there, and I have Quinn Ewers Heisman tickets as well.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
so it's going down in Austin this year. This is a good year to be in Austin.
I think so, and of course you have to be a little bit trepidatious because it's like every year you say that Texas is back. It's like saying Candyman in a mirror 3 times.
It's like saying the Cowboys gonna win the NFC.
Exactly, but like in my power ranking, so Texas is 4th. It's just a qualitative measure, but Texas is 4th. The next team in the Big 12 in there is, I think it's Oklahoma's 19th or 20th, and then you have sort of a quagmire. It's like Texas Tech is around there, TCU's around. There's a whole bunch of teams in the Big 12 around there, but that's an enormous qualitative discrepancy between your number 1 team in a conference and number 2. They're just the class of the conference by far, just qualitatively with their roster. And I have them better than Alabama. So they're a slight underdog just because that game is in Tuscaloosa, but I happen to think that they're going to beat Alabama. So, I have the Texas plus 7.5 tickets in my pocket. I have the nice. Texas money line tickets, whatever. The Quinn, I checked this morning, the Heisman odds. Quinn Ewers at my book, at least, is down to 10-1 for Heisman. Earlier this summer, I would have to check my ticket. I don't know, it's 30-1 or something. That thing keeps coming down. But after, if Texas were to beat Alabama in week 2 or whatever, he's going to be number 2 on the odds boards behind only Caleb Williams. So 10-1 is going to seem like a steal at that point. Like if that happens, whatever. But yeah, you look at the rest of Texas's schedule after Alabama, it is super manageable. And even if they were to lose to Alabama, you still make the playoffs if you just run the table after that. So they can stub their toe there anyway and still make the playoff. I'm a big fan of Texas. As long as Quinn Ewers stays healthy, I think they have a really good shot to make it there. And it's not just Quinn Ewers, of course. They return all 5 starting offensive linemen. Those kids all played all 13 games last year.
That's crazy.
They all returned.
They're together.
The only guys they really lost on their team, it was Bijan and Roschon, but they have the 2 5-star running backs coming back, that Jonathan Brooks as well. I think they'll be fine there. They have 4 or 5 starting caliber wide receivers coming back. The tight end's a stud. The defense got way better last year. A lot of those guys are coming back. They got a bunch of guys in the portal as well. That's a really good team.
So how you feel about Texas, right? I'm sitting here saying to myself, looking and, who's a team that can disrupt the system, who can get inside the playoff. And I was watching The Pivot, and I'm scrolling through and looking at old episodes of The Pivot, and I seen where about 2 months ago, they went to Notre Dame and interviewed Marcus Freeman. And I kind of fell in love with the young man, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, then I get to looking at this schedule, and I'm like, wow. Ohio State, who they played well against last year, they get a chance. They got to go to Clemson. It seemed like Notre Dame always play their toughest games at home, but they actually go to Clemson, Ohio State, USC. Tough schedule. A path is there. I like the Fighting Irish over the 8.5, and I like them at plus 500 to make a trip to the college football playoff.
I do too. Yeah. And you're hitting some of the teams that I like. I promise I don't like every team, but I do like Notre Dame. It's funny. Tim Murray is, I love Tim.
That's my man.
And Tim is a noted Notre Dame fan, but he was pessimistic about Notre Dame against the 8.5 number all summer. And he brought me on his show. And I was like, Tim, you got to stop being pessimistic about Notre Dame at 8.5. I really like this Notre Dame team. My system's win total on Notre Dame is actually 9.5. You bring in Sam Hartman. It's Sam Hartman, the upgrade of him over Drew Pine, it almost can't be accounted for. Drew Pine, like Tim has a joke that Drew Pine is like Mac quality. I don't even know if he would start over some of the starting quarterbacks in the Mac. Like Drew Pine stinks. And Sam Hartman is the number 19. If you look on the leaderboards all time, FBS history, passing yardage, Sam Hartman is number 19. After this season, he's going to be top 5 if he stays healthy. And one thing, interestingly, if you look into his advanced numbers, you parse it out between clean pockets and then muddy pockets. Sam Hartman is one of the best quarterbacks we've seen in the last 5 years in clean pockets. Why that's interesting is people like to discount the guys coming out of the Wake Forest system because, oh, you're coming out of the slow mesh system. It's very gimmicky and stuff like that, which fair enough, even though we've seen some of these guys more or less succeed in the NFL. Who is the guy, Wofford? Yeah. Right? Like when he came in, nobody wanted to believe he's still around the NFL, whatever. But what does the slow mesh do? You get the ball, and then you have to like delay, so that the defense has to tip off what their intentions are. But what that does, you invite pressure right into your pocket, right? So that's Sam Hartman was constantly dealing with these muddy pockets, and then he would have to step around guys and whatnot. So there was always pressure around him. Now you go to Notre Dame, you're playing behind one of the best offensive lines in college football. Joe Alt, the kid on the left side, I think he has a really good shot to be the first offensive lineman taken in the next draft. Everybody says the Fashanu kid from Penn State. Fashanu's the best pass blocking lineman in college football.
Yeah.
He ain't a good run blocker, though. Joe Alt is the best all-around offensive lineman in college football. But Notre Dame, they go 5 across on the offensive line. This is by far the best offensive line Hartman will have ever played behind. And it's not a system where Notre Dame's going to be like, hey, defensive line, just get up in Sam Hartman's face every time he throws the ball. So Sam Hartman's actually going to be in clean pockets all season. And that's what he's awesome at. So like this whole offensive system, I think you go from a system last year where it was just force the ball with a mediocre quarterback to Michael Mayer every time, and Michael Mayer couldn't get deep, and then he just had to break tackles, whatever, and that was their whole offense. You go from that to now they can do whatever they want, and Estimate is a really good running back.
Yep.
This is a good, and they can play defense too. And Marcus Freeman got over the first year stuff last year. People want to bring up, they got upset, by a couple teams last year, whatever.
They lost that second game to Marshall.
Yeah, like Tyler Buckner gets hurt right out the gate. He had the first year coach and like stuff like that, but they don't bring up as much what you brought up, Corey, right at the start, which is that they upset some teams that they played up. They were punching up, and they don't bring up the circumstances of losing the starting quarterback right out the gate, and that he inherited a lot of the personnel that they had. I really like Notre Dame this year. I'm with you on that one.
So let's for the next couple teams, let's go back 5-6 years ago. And I wonder how Dabo's feeling right now, because you got all the Hall of Famers at South Carolina State. You got the Gamecocks breathing down your neck. You know what I'm saying? Yep. You got Florida State breathing down your neck. You know what I mean? But now you got your quarterback who you say is going to change things. You bring in Garrett Riley from TCU. The win total is sitting at 10 for the Clemson Tigers, top 10 team. But Florida State is actually ranked higher. Oh, is there cracks in Clemson, or can Dabo bring this crew back to the CFP?
Yeah, this at 10, that one's a pass for me. My system's
a tough one. Mm-hmm.
My system's got Clemson at 10.3, but yeah, at the 10 number, I think you got to pass at that one. There's so much going on there, and the ascension of Florida State, I think, is for real. That is a super duper talented team. I do like bringing in Garrett Riley for Streeter. Even though Clemson's offense did get a little bit better last year, but Garrett Riley's for real. That guy brought friggin' Max Dugan to the college football national title game. I mean, you got to do that. I also think the upgrade from Uiagalelei to Klubnik, that's for real as well. So I think, with Clemson, at least your ceiling now, you've brought the ceiling back to a potential national title contender. But I mean, like the variance is still in play with that team, where we don't know with Klubnik yet, right? Like, I mean,
I'm very 50-50 on him. Some people like him, some people don't like him. I've seen him play a couple times. Listen, there's not enough big enough sample size, but I cannot say that I was like, this guy's a Heisman Trophy guy.
Yeah, we just haven't seen it yet. Yeah, and when he came in at last year, there was flashes where you saw the accuracy that you just categorically did not see with Uiagalelei. But also, it's not like he lit the world on fire. Like in that sample we saw at the end of last year, it's not like he came out and he was Trevor Lawrence. Like there was also the stuff of like, oh yeah, I can sort of see why they weren't playing him at the beginning of the season as well. So, and they didn't, right? Like they had every incentive to yank Uiagalelei during the fall for months, and they didn't do it. So I mean, I think that there's at least some doubt that's introduced into the marketplace about what do we have in Klubnik, And because of that, I can't go hog wild on them, especially because the ACC has gotten better. I mean, of course, Florida State, but you can even go lower than that. Like Miami, talent wise, is way better. And now, ostensibly, they have fixed the coordinator mistakes that Cristobal made in year one, whatever. So, you know, and you can go down and down and down. Like that conference has just gotten better. So I just think that's a pass. I certainly wouldn't go under, but like I just think that's a pass. I think 10 is a fair number.
It seems like that's the number where it's going to hit on. Alabama, the number is 10.5. Obviously, the big games on the schedule, Texas, LSU. But the big thing is who is going to be the signal caller, starting quarterback for Alabama. Are we going to see press conference upset Nick Saban when it comes to talking about who's this quarterback going to be? Are we going to see dual quarterbacks, multiple quarterbacks? They're not letting anything on, but I know after the spring, he had to go get somebody. So he wasn't happy with Jalen Milroe in-house.
Yes, and yes. We finally got to a team that I don't like, and one of my unders. My number on Alabama is 9.7. And I don't think that Alabama's getting to double-digit wins this year. I think this is going to be a 9-3 team, maybe even an 8-4 team. There's a bunch of things about this team that I don't like. Let's just go through the list. I do think you're going to see multiple quarterbacks this year. You've already sort of seen the hints of this. They go through the spring. They so dislike their quarterback situation. Simpson and Milroe both struggled through that they have to go out and bring in Tommy Reese's old quarterback, Buckner, that wasn't great at Notre Dame and have been injured. And then, you know, it's like Nick's like, hey, Tommy, bring in that guy because the guys that we've seen in the spring stunk so much.
Man, if they would have got Hartman, they would have been trouble, but they didn't get Hartman. So there you go.
They sure did not. Yeah. And so now you have the three quarterback derby, but none of them is inspiring whatsoever. The skill talent there is way down from what we certainly. You don't have a Jahmyr Gibbs. You have a homeless man's Jahmyr Gibbs is the guy who's leading it in Jace McClellan. But I think that's going to be like you're going back to the committee, but this is going to be one of the more uninspiring committees that Alabama's had in the backfield. The receivers stunk last year. I mean, it was embarrassing.
No explosive plays in the passing game last year.
None. And it wasn't just that. They couldn't get separation. And then when Bryce Young invariably would buy time and then would put a ball on someone's hands, it would clang off one of those kids' hands. It was like Jermaine Burton. It just clang off his hands. Ja'Cory Brooks couldn't get on the field because Saban was ripping his hair out. The kid, Harrell, they couldn't get him on the field. He wasn't healthy. Now, you know, he's been exodus out of the program. Like, just bad. And they didn't bring anything in to help, right? The offensive line wasn't good last year. Ask Bryce Young about that. He couldn't wait to get to the NFL and not play with them anymore. Then you flip it to the defense. The defense, you know, it was pretty solid last year. It's not going to be better this year. You lose Will Anderson, you lose Branch, you lose Young, you lose Toto, you lose Helms, on and on and on. They're not going to improve after that. So the offense, after losing the first pick, after losing Gibbs, after losing those guys, that's going to be worse. The defense is going to be worse. The 10.5 number, it's only because of the brand name Alabama. That number should be 9.5. You get a free one win to go under, literally just because of the brand name. I love that under.
Yeah, I think so too. I would agree with you on that. I would hammer that under on the Crimson Tide. I don't think it's going to be the year for them this year. And that brings me to the team that I have winning the national championship this year, the LSU Tigers. They come in total 9.5, minus 125 juice to the over. Yeah. This is it. This is Brian Kelly, Jaden Daniels. This is their defense. Top 5 matchup versus Florida State to start the season. They get that win. They get a win in Tuscaloosa. And then it comes, can they beat Georgia?
Yeah, I was asked a couple months ago for my national title pick. I took Michigan over LSU. So
this is going from 19-1. Now it's as low as 11-1 in some spots. LSU to win the national championship.
It don't surprise me at all. I mean, LSU, you have all the returning experience. You have veterans in key spots. And then on defense, you have havoc makers at key spots. Obviously, Harold Perkins, but you also have experience at the other spots as well. And Brian Kelly last year, you know, he takes over that was year one. he had that really embarrassing game in week 1. Remember the Monday night game against Florida State, and we were all making fun of him, and Keyshawn Butte seemed checked out, and it was like, oh, this is a really bad fit. I was so impressed after that. They were a laughing stock.
They got rolling after that.
They got rolling. Like, after that game, I was like, Brian Kelly's not a fit here, and Keyshawn Butte going to quit. And then I think they won like 9 of the next 10 games. And it was like,
it's just like,
shit.
I remember the halftime interview of that game. They was talking to Kelly, and he was like, well, if we can figure out how to play football, maybe we can win a couple games this year. Like, and I was like, it was like a real bad feeling. The next thing you know, one thing about Brian Kelly, we like to make fun of him. He can coach football.
Oh, he can coach his ass off. Everywhere he's ever been, that guy can coach his ass off. And like that, they were building for this year, right? Like, I don't think that, it's weird to think of because they ended up doing so good last year. But Kelly was building for this year, not last year. Like,
and they were in the SEC championship last year.
Exactly. Like, that was just a cherry on top of what happened last year. And then he was able to convince all these guys to come back. They got a ton of stuff in the portal. The only guys they really lost from last year's team, it was addition by subtraction. Keyshawn Butte, they did not want him back.
Yeah.
Literally, like, I was told this. I don't know if you remember right after the season, it was that weird thing where it was like Keyshawn Butte, like, he like declares, but then like the next day he's like, no, actually I'm coming back to school. And we were all like, wait, what the hell? But then like the next day he's like, no, just kidding. I'm declaring for the draft. And we were all like,
going on.
Yeah.
You're right. They didn't want him there.
Yeah. And so I checked with someone around the program and it was like, yeah, BK told him we don't want to watch you back. And I was like, really? Like, so they literally did not want Butte back. I mean, he was disinterested last year. There's something weird going on with that kid. And then the other, Jure Jenkins, wasn't that good last year either. They didn't want those guys back. Neighbors, he's the stud in that room. They bring him back. And then Kelly wanted those scullies open. He wanted interested receivers that played with explosion on the field. They went into the portal and they got receivers that Kelly wanted that wanted to be there. They're going to have a better receiving core next year for Daniels, who they bring back. Obviously, they're there as well. And then they've got Logan Diggs from Notre Dame to improve their running back room, probably going to start there. That's a really good team. And like I said, the defense is really sick too. I like your call with that because I think they're going to be in the playoff as well.
Yeah, no doubt. It should be an interesting season. And then obviously that'll be a monster game when those two meet up. And by that time, for real, they can really be putting a nail in the coffin for Alabama on the season and getting ready to head on to the Bulldogs that first Saturday in December. Let's do the Pac-12 thing because
R.I.P. Corey.
Yeah, it's over. It was just like my Big East basketball. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Sometimes that middle of the country in college sports can tear up those coasts, and that's exactly what happened. But they do got one season left, and it's going to be an interesting one. Let's start with where college football is going to start this year. In Colorado with Coach Prime, win total opens up 2.5, pushes up to 3.5. It's juiced to the under, right? But they're a liability to win the championship because who doesn't want to root for Deion Sanders? Can Coach Prime get the 4 wins? Or hell, can he get the 6 and get this team to a bowl game?
If he can get that team to 6 wins, he should be enshrined in the College Football Hall of Fame. This is a brutal schedule.
It is,
and that's why the 3.5 number I think is objectively fair. In fact, I put Colorado into my system. I go out 2 decimals. My system spit back at me 3.49 wins.
Just right,
so
right
almost
there.
Exactly to the 100th of a point on what Vegas had. That 3.5 number is objectively fair. That is a classic stay away. But you talk about the schedule. There is no FCS opponent on it. There's only one G5 opponent on it. That's Colorado State. Who and I'm not trying to fluff up like Saban does with Georgia Southern and whatnot, but like Colorado State got way better over the season. Last year, they had the first year coach from Nevada and they had all these offensive line injuries. That was a reset year. They're going to be way better this year. But the rest of them, you have TCU and Nebraska and the non-con.
Right off the top, they can start 0-4.
Yeah, and then the rest of their schedule, it's the Pac-12. Well, the Pac-12 is really freaking good this year. You have 3 different, 4, technically 4, if you want to call them Utah, teams that legitimately can make the college football playoff. And I'm not even counting UCLA and Oregon State, who are both top 25 teams with a bullet. Like that is a good conference. So, I mean, it's tough for Colorado year one and unprecedented roster turnover, literally on a scale we've never seen before.
Definitely. And they said they was going to come in there and did that, and they did it. Now it's time to see if the rest can add up. It's going to be a tough season. People are going to be rooting on him, and he's going to be on TV every single Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
But will the win start to come is going to be the case. But the conference, USC is the favorite to win the conference. Their win total is 10. Does USC win the conference? Does Caleb become the first guy since Archie Griffin to win 2 Heismans? And what do you think? What do we got in this Pac-12 right here this year? This final season of the Pac-12.
Yeah,
the grand finale.
it would be my lean, but I wouldn't be betting the mortgage. They didn't do enough on defense.
They got like one good player.
Yeah, like to make it a lock, whatever. Like my system's got 10.2 wins on USC, and of course, I mean, they got the sick offense and everything, but their profile to me it's too similar to Oregon and Washington. Like for me to put them like heads and shoulders above the other two. I think that's going to be sort of a fascinating race to the finish line. I have USC 10.2 wins. I have Oregon at 9.9. I have Washington at 9.8. So like those 3 teams are, you have them pretty close. I do think the Pac-12 is going to get one of those teams in. Like their sort of swan song. I do think one of those ends up getting in. But of course you do have the possibility that, it's like, A beats B, B beats C, C beats,
they beat up on each other and knock each other out the playoff.
Exactly. And then you have like the thing of like Utah is like the antidote to some of these teams because of the way that they play. And if Rising was healthy, that I knew he was for sure healthy, and I knew that Keithy was going to play the entire season. And now Rising's backup is injured, this Rose kid. If I knew that Utah was fully healthy, that would be the team that I'd be super bullish on because they have the best defense in the conference for sure. They might have the best offensive line in the conference. They have one of the best running back rooms in the conference. They are the antidote. They were built to take down these teams. We seen it last year when they played USC. USC hates playing Utah, and those other finesse teams don't like playing them either. It's really hard to trust them when specifically Rising is hurt, and now his backup is hurt as well. But like those are sort of the factors we're looking at the top of that conference.
A lot of stuff going on in college football. Hey, Thoma, man, thank you. Really appreciate the time. I think we are set to make some winning wages and get ready to enjoy the season, my brother.
My man, appreciate you. I always like talking to you, Corey.
No doubt.